This is the Haunted Files Unplugged, where the lights are low, the stories are raw, and the truth is stranger than fiction. Join Mike Delcoro, Eric Vanderlaan, and their special guests as they dive into the dark corners of the paranormal. From hauntings and cryptids to UFO encounters and everything in between. No filters, no scripts, just pure, unfiltered conversation from the world beyond. You're listening to the Haunted Files Unplugged.
Holy motherfucker!
Happy Monday, everybody. I'm Eric Vanderlaan. I'm your host of the Haunted Files Unplugged radio show. Unfortunately, tonight I'm missing my partner, Mike, but it's okay. We're going to keep rolling. And we got an amazing guest. We have Chris Balzano. He's actually a high school teacher, but he's been involved in the paranormal and doing research since '94. He has a podcast, Tripping on Legends, and he knows a lot about anything that's haunted in Florida. So I made a little, if I can find it, a little intro for him. So here we go. Bam. All right, let's see if I did a good job on the intro. And without further ado, let's bring our guest, Chris. Bam. Man, I got a delay on my mouse here. I don't know what's going on.
I know, I'm having a little delay here. Thank you very much for that amazing intro.
Well, I got you nervous, right?
You did get me nervous, right? Like, it's so funny, man, because I do a haunted tour as well. So I'm out there, and when I'm doing my haunted tour, I'm totally like into it. It's like the same thing as being in the classroom. Like, I'm interactive. I don't, my hands are going, and then I see like someone post a picture, and it's me like, and I'm like, you couldn't get one cool shot of me the whole tour. So it's always a little nerve-wracking when I'm getting put out there with someone else's editing.
You couldn't stay still, damn it.
Exactly.
So we met was it like 2 or 3 years ago at the Heard Opera House at the Paracon there?
Yep. Yeah, I think we actually, for some reason, met at another one in Fort Myers.
That was the more recent one, right?
Well, yeah, it was no,
it was.
Year. I think that was actually a few years ago because I remember being impressed by you guys and like coming over and talking to you guys for a bit, and then we met over. Like, we're getting old, man. When all these years and the events get blurred, and you're like, I don't remember.
I know, right?
I just remember I know you. Wow. So it's like it was funny because when you messaged me, I'm like, dude, like, you're introducing yourself like I don't know who you are.
Well, I'm not that type of person. Like, you should know who I am,
Like, don't you know who I am? No. I was thinking more of it as like no one knows who I am. It's more of like that.
Yeah, I was like, I don't know if this guy remembers me. But I'm glad I left a lasting impression.
You did. Well, I mean, I follow you guys as well. Big fan of the show,
So you're out in Southwest Florida. You've written quite a few books on Southwest Florida, Ocala National Forest, and amongst other places. Which really, and we've investigated a few things out there. Most recently, the Ted Smallwood store down there in Everglades City, super active, and then we did like a little camping trip and did a little commando investigation at Forest State Park.
Oh, I love that place. That's crazy.
Yeah. And you could just feel the energy on the grounds there, especially at night, even during the day almost.
So we, I mean, years ago, during the initial incarnation of Tripping on Legends, it was my partner and I, and she had 3 daughters, and I have a son and a daughter, and they were like staggered ages, right? So we went out there as a family trip kind of thing, because we're like part of Tripping on Legends used to be. Now my kids have kind of aged out of it, because now it's like Tripping on Legends with adults, but like we did Tripping on Legends with kids, right? And so we went out there, and we kind of showed them how you would do like a legend trip and how you would go about looking at this place. And the one thing I have found in doing this is the best people to talk to about any kind of haunting are park rangers, right? Like they have all the experiences of like cops in terms of being like up front and with it all the time and having these things happen, but none of the threat of ever being fired because of it. And so when we went there, it was probably, I remember it was like July 1st or July 2nd. And we went pretty close to when it was closing, and the guy just kept the park open for us.
Oh, no.
And he sat down and he talked to us for probably about an hour. And it was this really great, like telling us the true stuff that was going on, like in terms of like the history of it, and then like linking in the the ghost stories. And it was one of those places that very much embraces its ghost stories. And then we just set the kids, because it was closed in, we were like really unsure that we set the kids just like go. Now I don't know if you want to talk about what the difference is between what you do and what I do in terms of like legend tripping versus investigating. But we always put a premium on experience over evidence. You know what I'm saying? So we don't spend a lot of time with equipment and evaluating evidence afterwards. And yet we got so much evidence at that location that day that it couldn't be ignored and couldn't be pushed aside. Like we had to just be like, no, like we had all of these things happen to us. We had an entire conversation with a rocking chair that would move and stop based on like our questions. We had these phantom bells that were going off that are heard only in recordings. But the crazy part of it is that certain kids in certain locations would hear the bells ring. And so you would have on the video, or you would have on the audio recording, a kid saying like, what's that bell? And you can't, no one else is reacting. No one else is hearing. You hear it on the recording. And I call that in haunted Southwest Florida, like the haunting everyone knows of, right? Everyone who's ever been there says that it's haunted, like it's had some kind of experience.
Right.
And I talked to a woman named Nikki who does like meditation classes there, right? And she's involved in a lot of the volunteering over the years. And all I did was I kind of had her as almost like the narrator of that chapter, and then all these people's crazy experiences there. And of course, the surrounding properties, especially, the bakery, not the bakery where they have the glass, but the bakery that's on 41. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yes, the yellow building.
Yes, the yellow building, right?
Yeah.
So there's the bakery, and then there's what actually was the bakery to the public back in the day. Right. And she said that's like the darkest place she's ever been. And so I was able to create this whole narrative of people literally being broken down on 41 and having experiences in the bakery as well. So it's actually, I recently just gave her a copy of the book, and I'm like, I have to thank you because you made the entire chapter, because it's one of the best chapters in the book. And it's because you have these kind of very pleasant experiences she has that then kind of that get darker, mixed in with all of these other people who have had crazy experiences there too.
So the yellow building on 41, that's part of the park as well?
So I think it's technically owned by the park, right?
Okay. It's all boarded up.
When the corrections, when it was open and active, that was the storefront, which is why it was called the bakery. So that was what the general public would have entered to like buy all of the baked goods and stuff like that.
Okay. And for people that are watching and listening, go check out Supernatural Eye, Francesca Garcia, my girlfriend. She just put out the video of us investigating Coruscant State Park, and we're working on part 2. It's a 2-part series. And we actually did it on Friday the 13th on a full moon.
Perfect convergence of everything.
I know, right? We were on Conrad's porch. The old like wooden cabin that's out there in the corner on the opposite end of where that yellow bakery is. And actually it's next to the bakery with glass. We were just hanging out in the porch and we started hearing tapping, and we got a Class A EVP saying, "Get out, I'm not your friend." That was wild.
Was it a girl or a boy?
No, it sounded like a man.
Like a man?
Yeah.
So that was really one of the things that, I don't know, aggravates me or whatever. It's like, as maybe as an English teacher, is like the connotation, right? Mm-hmm. So people, when they're talking about the Korean, always say cult, right?
Right.
And they're usually saying cult to make it seem sexy. Like they were doing evil, and it's like, dude, they were like the most boring cult you can ever imagine. Like the religion itself was, the hollow earth theory was kooky, right?
Yeah.
But these people were not like what we would think, but to make it sexy, they always called it a cult. But for its time, especially, was crazy progressive when it came to women. So women really drove that actual community. And so usually almost all the time, in terms of voices, we get female voices. I've always gotten female voices there as opposed to males.
Right. Yeah, I don't know, but for some reason it was like a male's voice. But like you're talking about, like how people try to associate it with the cult, trying to like thinking like it's a dark thing. One person that did take ideas from it was David Koresh, but he spun it off into a dark way that was not even compared to what their community was.
It's more of it was more of the idea of like Koresh being on the earth. So like David Koresh legitimately thought like he was the Messiah. He was not like hollow earth theory. Like there's really no connection other than the name Koresh itself, which means either father or Messiah or something like that. Right. But what the crazy thing is, and I kind of, I'm not sure if I did it for this or the Ocala book. It had to have been for this one. I was looking at Tweed, right? And Colby and John Smith, all are living in upstate New York around the same time, and then disperse and found these religions, right? So we've got like John Smith. Please tell me I'm getting John Smith right. It's not Joe Smith. I always forget. John Smith creates Mormonism, right? And then Colby comes down, and you have the spiritualist movement in Cassadaga. And then you have Cyrus Tweed who comes down for the Koreshans. And the crazy thing is, though, it was like, and those are just like 3 that are 2 are Florida based, and one's obviously like a major religion, all coming from the same area of upstate New York, like originally. Although Cyrus did come from originally, I think, Chicago, and then to that area. But it's like, what was in the water up there? You know what I'm saying? In the mid 1800s, that was causing these people to have this like revolutionary kind of spiritual movement that, obviously of the 3, only Mormonism really, although, spiritualism's going strong, but I don't think you can compare it to Mormonism.
Yeah, definitely. We actually did an investigation and filmed an episode for the Haunted Files at Cassadaga at the Ann Stevens Bed and Breakfast. And we got some pretty interesting things there. I mean, it was pretty active. And what was really cool was they have a haunted museum there.
That's, what is it, Cecil Green, I think it's called.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
we went in there, and then a few years before that, we were with Univision to film an episode, and we had our team members get read by a psychic medium there. So that was pretty cool.
I always say if you're gonna get a reading and you really like are gonna want to get your money's worth, you go to Casadega. So on tripping on legends, kind of the push of it is like, what are the stories, right, that people tell, and what are the legends people tell, and what is their connection to locations and communities and things like that. And so when we went to Casadega, we went on St. Patrick's Day.
Okay.
And our focus was really going to be, we wanted to visit the museum and we wanted to visit some of the other locations. But our major thing was Casadega has a ferry trail.
Yes.
And so our idea was, let's go to the ferry trail. It's St. Patrick's Day. So we're going to take traditional, TikTok, social media, ways to catch leprechauns. Mm-hmm. And we're going to unleash them onto the ferry trail and see what we can get.
There you go.
Right. And so we used it as a way to talk about fairies and talk about, leprechauns and things like that. And then when we went out there, we had these jars, and part of, our goal was to collect whatever we could in these jars.
Okay.
And so we come back, I have my kids part-time, so they leave. One of my friends comes, who's a practicing witch. She steps into my house and she sees these jars and she's like, "What the hell did you do?" And I'm like, "What are you talking about?" And then they're most boring looking jars just like on the table. And she's like, whatever is going on, like there's black swirling smoke in those jars. And I'm like, "What are you talking about? Like, they're completely empty. There's nothing in these." And she's like, no, get them out of the house. So she actually took me outside the house. Thank heavens we had a blank, an empty lot next to us. We buried them in the ground. Did a little ceremony, buried them in the ground. But that was like, something really happened. And if you've ever been to Casadega, both positive and negative, like there's definitely a vibe there. You know why he settled.
Yeah, definitely. They say there's a portal there.
Yeah, and of course, when you're there, you have to definitely do the Devil's Chair, which we did.
Speaking of urban legends,
right? Exactly.
We were there. Yep.
The funny thing is that if we're talking about, because when you and I were talking, I said, well, let's talk about some like famous ones everyone knows, and then like their lesser known equivalents, right? So I'm talking. It was March 17th, like random day. It was a Thursday, I think, right? And I kid you, there were no less than 5 different people filming themselves at the Devil's Chair for their YouTube channels.
Uh-huh.
And it was like, oh, wow. Like, it's in the middle of the day, like at 2:00 in the afternoon. So I was able to sell them all books, by the way. But it was just funny that it was like, oh, wow. Like, this is someplace that people come even during the day.
Did you bring your Colt 45 tall boys over there?
So I was with my kids. So for those people who don't know, is there anyone who doesn't know? There's all these different, but one of them is that you take a full bottle of beer, and when you return, the bottle has been empty, but it hasn't been opened. Yeah. So we decided to go with ginger ale and root beer.
Perfect.
and it was, I was more mesmerized and fascinated by, which they don't really tell you unless you dig deeper into the legend, is that this is someplace that is considered sacred and cherished, in that it's supposed to do the opposite too, right? So the idea is that some part of the folklore says that you can sell your soul to the devil, and you sit in the chair, you put out your intention, and if you get a response in your left ear, left being the side of the devil, then you have been granted this, whatever you're looking for. Mm-hmm. But the other idea of it is that people go there, they leave coins I don't know. So I don't know if you saw all the coins that were there.
Yeah, I don't know about
there
the
when you went
coins.
there. And the coins are designed to break spells and break curses.
Okay.
So there's a whole. It's interesting. I love when a legend and a ghost story like evolves like that, because then people take that and they're like, well, if you can do bad things there, then that also means that you can probably break things. And so people go there and they leave coins on the devil's chair. And the idea is that, things will get better. But I can tell you scientifically, my life is still crappy. So whatever curse is on me is still on me to this day. And that was years ago.
Yeah, one of those big water jug of coins.
Right. I'm basically unleashing a whole coin star, being like, dude, anything, give me help, please. So,
but the truth is, like, going back to the comfort, those chairs are morning chairs. So people went there. Instead of standing, you sit down and you can mourn your lost one.
Right, and it's interesting though that the story, if I'm remembering, is that he was mourning his wife and his daughter, but he actually died, and in reality, he dies before they die. So it's kind of an interesting. We don't really know who the chairs were designed for, like who decided to put the chairs up there. But the story that they both died, sometimes it's they died together, sometimes they just died like pretty close to each other. But the idea that it was him mourning them is actually inaccurate as well. So, and just so you know, and even in that shot that you showed at the beginning, what I'm saying in that shot is I love it when the story's not right.
Yeah.
Because I think ghosts are ghosts, and ghosts are, a ghost story is for the dead, but ghostly legends are for the living, right? And so you've probably encountered this trying to get to the truth of something, is the idea that we don't know how to deal with this stuff. The average person doesn't know how to deal with this.
No one will ever know until we're dead.
Right? And so what they do is they fall back on what sounds like it makes sense in old stories that they know, right?
Right.
So there are probably 17 Romeo and Juliet ghosts running around Florida. I mean, I have an entire book, Haunted Florida Love Stories, that just is talking about these, this idea that love in all of its different forms, both dark love, but also like, joyful and happiness, is so powerful that it actually, creates its own ghosts. But in actuality, a lot of it just makes sense that they're like, okay, I don't know why I'm seeing this woman in white walking. She had to have been a bride that was left at the altar who then took her life. Like, yeah, that makes sense. I've heard that kind of thing before. And so it kind of places itself onto the location.
Well, there's a bed and breakfast in Monticello, Florida, called the Denham House. And the spirit that haunts that place got jilted at the altar. And she's known for tucking people in bed.
Right. And by the way, I'm not saying that I want my daughter to go to Florida State University.
My daughter did.
But I am saying that maybe that trip to take it to the campus is going to be like a 4-day trip, and we're hitting all those Monticello legends and the FSU legends. Not saying that's why we're taking the trip, and she has no intention of going there. But, it really is.
I'll be visiting you a lot.
Yeah, but like that story, that jilted lover who's still coming back. I mean, there's Rolling Acres has, Lisa who's walking the streets, who I don't think is a jilted lover at all. But the story is, one of 3 different versions of her man goes off to war, comes back. He comes back. She's either with somebody or her parents are forcing her to be with somebody. He kills her. And now she's still, I think she's a Mary. I can't remember if she's still walking that road. So that story is repeated time and time again, all throughout the country. So obviously then like Florida as like a microcosm of that, like we have our own versions of that as well. Probably my favorite though is in Fishhawk Creek, so Boyette, Florida. And the story here is that he's going across the bridge to stay at his friend's house on her side of the bridge, and he's tossed by his horse, and he flies over the edge, and he gets crushed in the rocks below. And she is so brokenhearted, she won't eat, she won't, take care of herself. And a few days after, when the wedding was supposed to take place, she hangs herself on the bridge in desperation, right, and despair. And if you go to the bridge on a Friday night and you turn your back, so you come where Jonathan was his name. What did you say? What's the name of the bridge?
Yeah.
It's just called the Bridge over Fishhawk Creek.
Oh, okay. And
where
is that by?
It's probably maybe a half hour outside of Tampa.
Oh, okay.
And so you cross, right? And you get like halfway to the bridge, you turn your back, so you're facing away from where her house was. And you say 3 times, I know where Jonathan is. I know where Jonathan is. I know where Jonathan is. And Martha walks across the bridge in her wedding dress. She's got a noose around her neck. She taps you on the shoulder and she says, help me find him. And if you can't do it, you just hear her start to cry and then slowly walk away. And the crying gets softer as she goes. Great haunting, has everything a great ghost story needs. But in the 1970s especially, this was such a popular thing to do that it was published in all these papers, all these different accounts. There was a woman who lived right near where you're supposed to enter the woods to get to the bridge. She actually set up an entire business selling lemonade to the people who were going on to this to try to see this ghost. And like, she made a pretty good living because every Friday people would come rolling in, and they would, especially on Friday the 13th, they would come rolling in and she would be there telling the story, selling the lemonade. And so it's, it's kind of just shows you the power of a good ghost story in different communities.
Yeah, definitely.
Spoilers, I've spent 6 hours in that woods
on
2 different locations. I haven't yet to find the bridge itself. So,
okay.
But at one time it was a really popular thing to do.
Very cool. Well, we're at our halfway mark. So, Christopher, I got to pay some bills.
All right, go ahead.
We're going to pay
I'm not buying,
bills.
but I'll let you pay them.
That's all right. As long as you're here, that's the main thing.
Okay. All right.
All right. So here we go.
What's up? Mike and Eric from the Haunted Files here, and we got these pieces of paranormal equipment in our hand. Why is that?
Because we want to give a big shout out to the Ghost Hunter Store, our sponsor. And you might see some of this equipment on your favorite ghost hunting shows. Is that right, Mike?
That's right, especially the Haunted Files on ParaFlixx.
And we're going to give you a special code for a discount on these devices.
That's right. So if you go to the Ghost Hunter Store, you go to the website, when you check out, if you enter the code Ghost Gone Wild,
not Girls Gone Wild.
That's right. You get a discount on your purchase. So check them out. They're your one-stop shop for everything paranormal.
What's up, everybody? I'm Eric, and this is Mike from the Haunted Files. And Mike, we got something special to tell everyone, right?
We do. We have an amazing product here. This is from Haunted Happy Hour, where they make spirit-infused coffee. And what's cool about this product right here is it's the Haunted Files edition. It's a Dark Isles brew.
Yep, and it's got a blend of Irish cream, pistachio, and dark rum. A perfect blend to awaken your dark side, right, Mike?
Hell yeah, it is. And if you're feeling sluggish or you are ready to investigate all night, this is for you, man. And it is amazing tasting. And not only that, but what did ParaFlixx do for us and for the fans?
Well, you're going to get a special discount code that's on the package, and you're going to be able to get 3 months for free ParaFlixx. And who can they watch, Mike?
Well, they can watch us and all the other amazing investigators on the ParaFlixx platform. So get yours today, and make sure you check out ParaFlixx and the Haunted Files.
And if you're feeling dead inside, get caffeinated with Haunted Happy Hour.
Are you ready to explore the unknown?
Eventually.
Brace yourself for a journey into the supernatural. ParaFlixx Paranormal Plus, your gateway to the paranormal, all-in-one streaming service. Dare to explore, dare to believe, dare to stream alone.
It does not want us here.
Sign up now and embark on a supernatural adventure like never before. ParaFlixx Paranormal Plus, the universal home of paranormal.
All right. So, just to let everybody know that we do have a show that's streaming on ParaFlixx, and if you put in our discount code, the Haunted Files 25, you'll get 25% off the annual subscription. We already got, I can't even believe we got 4 seasons. We just completed 4 seasons. We're working on season 5 and a Halloween special, HalloFlix, that's going to be coming up soon. And I also want to show Christopher our trailer that we did in Casadega at the Ann Stevens house. So these are one of the episodes that you can watch. So I'll play that right now. Bam.
Welcome to the Haunted Files.
And tonight we are investigating the Ann Stevens house. You ready to do this?
I am. Let's do it.
We're going to have the pleasure of investigating the Ann Stevens bed and breakfast. Super haunted. It goes back to the early 1900s. And the interesting fact is that this place is located in a spiritual camp.
The one misconception that drives me the most crazy is that we are a community of witches.
For more than 125 years, the quiet community of Casadega has been somewhat of a mystery to many Central Floridians, and people have lots of other misconceptions about it too.
We worship the devil. There's an evilness about us. As spiritualists, we don't even believe in the devil.
But for those in the know, Casadega is a gateway to the great unknown.
After we reopened this as a bed and breakfast, some of our guests began having experiences. Some were tucked in. One morning, their bed had been made. Others had seen a man in a Civil War uniform. And we learned that this person had been Ann Stevens' gardener.
As darkness settles in over this quiet little town, you can feel the shift in the energy. With our equipment in hand, we head in, prepared to document whatever we may encounter.
You get close to that box again, please. Just let us know you're here.
Awesome.
Get out. Edward.
I swear I'm looking across the hallway in the other room, and I feel like someone's peeping out like a shadow.
I just got the chills.
Yeah, I felt that right there.
As soon as I passed the threshold.
He said devil. We went to the devil's chair.
At 900 feet, the destination is on your left, the Devil's Chair.
In Casadega, Florida, sits the Devil's Chair, a stone seat said to summon the devil himself. Legends say that at midnight he'll speak to you. Leave a beer, and by morning it's gone. A chilling mystery, and one of Florida's darkest urban legends.
What does the devil's chair mean to you?
Daddy.
It was weird.
Very cool.
We were doing the our version of the Estes method. It's a Delcoro
Yeah.
experiment with the goggles.
Yeah.
Kind of the Gansfeld experiment. We were getting the devil's chair through the radio. It's really weird.
It has a tendency to like reach out into other aspects of the town, right?
I know,
Yeah.
right?
It's so I went there another time. A friend of mine was staying there, and I was doing Spookala, and I was like, oh, and so I find I'm like, can I hang out with you? Can I stay with you? Because she was staying at the Hotel Casadega. And we got that. We got the knocking on the door. We open up the door, and there's absolutely nobody there. And we were walking around the town, which at night, which they don't really let you do, right? So if the cops see you just walking on the street, they'll ask you like, where are you going? Why don't you head back to the center of town?
I'm a paranormal investigator.
Yeah. And we weren't, right? We were literally just like walking around vibes, right? Get vibes. And there were several spots because it's when you say in that, or when Fox News says on that, a quiet little town, or you say it, it is like there's a block of a downtown area, and then there's no streetlights anywhere else. There's no right, and so you can't see what you're coming up on. And it was amazing how many times she had like a visceral negative response and just started crying, and then all of a sudden we would roll up on one of the more infamous locations like the Fairy Trail or something like that. So you definitely, there's definitely a crossroads of energy there that makes sense that he would feel that and put his camp there.
You're absolutely right. We did a residential case just down the street from the Casadega Hotel. And at night, you could hear a pin drop. It's so quiet there.
Yeah, it really it's like, okay. I mean, it's the town that feared sundown or something like that. Like it really goes from this, not that it's like crazy party town during the day, but it literally almost becomes like abandoned at night. And so, if you can walk around, especially at nighttime, you can really feel like you can just put X's on places and check them out during the day, and you're like, oh, that's where this is located, and that's where this is located that people talk about.
Right. Yeah, definitely.
No equipment needed.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? It's like,
well, it's funny.
Back of your neck.
It's funny because like I've been investigating for a while, and now for me, like when I do an investigation, and if I'm not filming, I'm all about the feels. I want to feel things and absorb the energy that's there. So you're located in Fort Myers, correct?
Yeah. Well, I'm actually Cape Coral, which is right next to it. But I do the haunted tour and the history tour in Fort Myers. Yeah.
Oh, okay. And what do you consider would be in your what do you think is the most haunted place in Southwest Florida?
In Southwest Florida?
Yes, sir.
Wow. So I would probably say,
or your top three.
Yeah. I mean, in Southwest, first of all, I mean, it's Indian Springs Cemetery is just my go-to. So when I have people on the tour that are here and they're from out of town and they say, well, we really want, like, this was a really good ghost tour. Thank you. Like, enjoy the history. Where's the spooky? I go Indian Springs Cemetery. So that is in Punta Gorda.
What's the history behind that cemetery?
The entire thing is history. Like you just walk the headstones, write the names down, and you could have an entire history project. You and I were talking about education earlier, right?
Right.
You go through that cemetery, but some of the more infamous ones is the McGraw's grave. So it's Mac McGraw and his wife Ma McGraw, and they ran this place called the Bloody Bucket. Like that was its informal name. It was right off the rail line, and part of their appeal. Now, keep in mind, this is like kind of during Prohibition. Tons of moonshine, and then they would take equal parts moonshine and like syrup for their sodas, like this red like cherry syrup for their sodas, mix them in equal parts. So it's like old school schnapps, and people would just get terribly drunk on it. And then Mama Gra used to actually give it as payment for the kids who were doing her errands and stuff like that. So all these people are walking around Punta Gorda all drunk. And
so is that where your flavored moonshine comes from, like apple pie and blueberry?
I don't think Mama Gra is getting any money for having
or the idea.
Did, but so Mac McGraw gets killed in the store, right?
Okay.
And pretty much everybody in town knows that it's not the thief who was shot in the back while he was trying to rob him, but rather it was this guy named Dick Wyndham. And it's really the worst part of it is if you go to the grave, here's the grave of Mac McGraw, and here's the grave of Ma McGraw, and literally in between them is the grave of Dick Wyndham, who ends up marrying Ma McGraw after she kills the husband. You know what I'm saying? Like, so we've gotten so one of the things we did, we went to the original location, which is a little bit further away. We drank spirits that were cherry flavored, not me, but my partner. And then we went there actually with investigators, and we just kept getting, they had a spirit box there. They just kept getting drink. Like they just wanted us to keep drinking. And also things, take it as you will. I hate Dick. But probably the saddest one is they have an entire stretch that's called Babyland. And Babyland was for anyone who couldn't afford to bury their child. So I just recently got, like a few days ago, a book. There are hundreds of unmarked graves in that Babyland area. A lot of it's been destroyed from hurricanes and storms and things like that. But there is this dark figure who walks up and down, kind of like patrolling Babyland, almost like the unknown soldier. He stops, takes a turn, goes the other way, mainly to defend them. There's also something dark there that kind of growls from the wood area. So my theory has always been this person is there to protect them. Well, as you do more research, one of the graves that's right near Babyland is this guy named Marshal John Bowman. And he was brought in to clean up Punta Gorda, and he is murdered. He is literally shot through his window with a kid in each arm and a cigar in his hand. He gets shot in the head, literally falls with the kids and the cigar still in his hand. His killer is never really found. A man who is charged with it, convicted, goes to the gallows 3 times, and all 3 times, he's kind of delayed, and then the 3rd time, it's turned to life in prison, and then he escapes. He ends up escaping, and so you see this grave and this headstone of a man who literally like gave his life in the line of duty. His entire family moved away. So it's the saddest thing. There's a grave and there's nothing else around it except for Babyland. And he had this love for his children. So it's always been my theory that it's John Bowman who is kind of walking up and down, protecting those little kids, the spirits of those little kids, which rise from the grave and rise from the graves as orbs you can see with your eye, like dancing all night long too. So
I think I'm gonna have to come visit you and do a little investigation up there.
Eric, I am telling you, like if you come down here, I will tell you, it literally is. And here's the ghost story behind this.
I'm there all the time.
The ghost story behind this grave. So
I'm always going to Naples, so I'm on the West Coast a lot.
Yeah, and it's probably about an hour or so away from Naples. It's funny because when I first started tripping on legends, I had kind of stepped back.
Almost thought you were going to say tripping on acid for a second.
When I started tripping on acid, that was earlier. No, when I started tripping on legends, like probably 10 years ago now, almost 10 years ago now, I had stepped away from the paranormal for a little bit, and my partner brought me back, and she was in Bonita, which is, the gateway to Naples, they call it.
Right.
And we were really hard pressed to find stories in Southwest Florida that fit the criteria of tripping on legends, right? Because it's not just about like, oh, it's a haunting or something like that. And it's not private investigations or anything like that. And, one of the things that I've found is that on the coast, it's really hard because I don't think Miami, you have to let me know, but, there's no one in Cape Coral who is like a third generation Cape Coralian. You know what I'm saying? And like, I'm it's just so now starting to find people in Fort Myers that have been there for several generations, but it's transient, right? Like a good ghost story that has a background that you can like bite into takes generations to kind of develop and pass down. It's really interesting. I was at Annie Russell's theater at Rollins College like last week, and I was talking to one of the theater directors, and she said, and it totally clicked in my head, I'm like, all right, new project. She was talking about how COVID had broken up traditions within the college and within the theater because you didn't have freshmen being told these stories by the seniors and then becoming seniors and telling it to the freshmen, right?
Right.
So there was like a 2-year period where the freshmen didn't get these stories as freshmen and didn't feel as connected to the college. They didn't feel as connected to the theater. And she has been forcing these traditions back on them, right?
That's super cool.
And so I think that like it really takes that kind of thing in a lot of these cities that are now like emerging, like Fort Myers, Cape Coral, Naples.
Right.
Naples is a little bit better. Like you're starting to see it generationally. So, but then you take someplace, you were asking me my 3 favorites. You take probably one of my other favorite places in Southwest Florida is Mayaca River State Park.
Okay.
And I think one of the 2 of those locations within that state park. Have you ever been there? It's in Sarasota.
I've always wanted to go, but haven't been.
I'll take you there too. Don't worry about it. It has like what I consider the definition of tripping on legends. So there's this one location called Big Flats, and it is said to be haunted by a headless man who messes with the campers, right? Knocks on, it's like a RV park, part of the state park. Will knock on the doors. If you leave a fire, he will be seen like trying to get himself warm by whatever remains of the fire. He's seen on the road walking from the water to the actual like campsite. And the crazy thing is that all of the legends, all the ghostly legends of it, people have had sightings of him, and they've talked to me about like things that they've seen. But the legend of it is that he had to have been killed because he's most frequently seen doing all of this stuff in July. Well, then when I went to the actual campsite for the very first time, and I was talking to one of the rangers, he's like, we're not open in July. Like, we are so slow, we actually close Big Flats, and it's not even open to the public for camping. So I don't know anybody that's having stuff there, right? So, and yet people are still having the experience, right? And then they have this canopy walkway. And that's kind of, right, that's one of the draws. And the story is that soldiers coming back from Vietnam, like a few soldiers who had come back from Vietnam, took their lives from the canopy. Right. And so the story says soldiers coming back. What'd you say?
That canopy's been there for that long?
Absolutely not. The canopy's not built until the 2000s.
That's what I figured.
Right. And so, and because in the story, it goes that it then became almost like this pilgrimage. Vietnam vets from all over the country were coming to Sarasota to take their lives at this canopy bridge. There's never been a reported suicide there. It wasn't even built when people are saying that they're doing this. And yet people are still seeing these dark shadows dancing on the underneath part. They're still hearing people walking up the stairs, but no one's there. They're still seeing people who are walking on the bridge, and then they kind of get up to that level and there's no one there and there ain't no place to go. So it's the definition. Like, these places are haunted by something. Something is going on. It's just the story that's behind them is not the story.
Yeah, maybe it's Native American.
It could be. The descriptions are never of Native Americans, but there definitely is always that chance here in Southwest Florida.
Yeah, because I'm sure you have them. We have a lot of Native American burial sites around here. I mean, even in Broward County, I pulled up a map. This is an interesting fact. So there's a road called Griffin that goes east and west. It'll go all the way to the ocean, all the way to the Everglades. So, like, right in the center are these towns called Davie and Cooper City. And there's several locations there that we investigated. So, I was just like, for shit and giggles, I found this map, and it was just littered with dots of sacred Native American burial sites.
Yeah.
All along that road. So we investigated a former police station, courthouse, and a jailhouse in Cooper City. That's now a bar that they say there's activity. There's the old Davie Schoolhouse that's built in 1904. It's like with the first school built out there when they started developing. And also we did several residential cases around that place. So just like real interesting that, I've noticed that like some of the locations that we investigated are all that are pretty much tied to like, sacred grounds,
So one of by the way, there are at least 17 towns that either used to be called Cooper or are still called Cooper here in Florida. Especially there's a ton of ghost towns that used to be called Cooper back in the day.
Interesting.
But when I'm doing my tour, we have McGregor Boulevard, which leads to the Edison and Ford estates, which are like the big draw for tourists who are not, looking to party, but looking for history. And the road that leads there is, there are bodies that are buried in the road itself. And when they were making the road, they went to, across the Caloosahatchee. They were kind of harvesting rocks and stones and coral to use as the filtration system underneath.
Mm-hmm.
And they found all these bones. They found 103, graves on this island and mounds. Right now, the Smithsonian says not Calusa, right? So 100% they're not Native American. But when I'm telling the story on the tour, and people are baffled by it, I'm like, dude, welcome to Florida. Like,
there's some crazy shit down here.
Between 1900 and 1920, you have the railroad going down your side, right? Like Flagler, just like powering through things.
Right.
And all through that, there is report after report after report of them just absolutely desecrating these graves. Probably my favorite one, kind of near you, is we were looking into the Screaming Man of the Boca Raton Cemetery.
Oh, I never heard that.
Oh, my word. It's a really great story that has a few different levels to it. But the Screaming Man, I mean, there are police records of people reporting this man, of cops going out and and it's a man who's crying. Like, it starts with a moan, goes to a cry, ends up a scream, right? And people never really see him, but they hear it. And he's known to like slam into cars, things like this. And so this is a really good example of, you need to understand the geography. You need to get out there in the field and see the where these legends are taking place for it to make sense. But as we're looking into what was possibly who this man could be, what we found is the cemetery had been moved 2 times. So where it is now is its 3rd location. The first time it gets moved, very, very Florida story, right? it gets moved so they can make a golf course. The second time it gets moved because they're building an Air Force base. So already you have that, like, dislocated spirits kind of thing going on.
Right.
But what we found,
and maybe some of them are still there.
And right. So what we found, though, is that less than a mile from the location was something called the Barnhill Mounds. And so everybody was trying to develop Boca Raton at that time, right? It had like all the elements. It was perfect between like, civilization and Miami as he's like building his railroads down there. And so
I'm right next to Boca. I'm in Coral Springs.
All right. So I'll take you out there too, because there's a lot to the cemetery. I'm just like touching upon it. So he ends up buying this patch of land and he's going to develop it. But as he starts to dig, he finds all of these bones. And he comes up with the idea that instead of spending that huge amount of money up front to build and to develop buildings, what he's going to do is he's going to build the Barnhill Mounds, which was a massive mound. And then what he did was he took all the bones he found, he put a glass tunnel through it, and then he displayed the best bones all the way around it. So you are literally going through a mound, which is supposed to be a grave mound, looking at all of the Native American bones all around you. And then when you got to the end, you got your own little bag of bones. Welcome to Florida before Disney, right? Like,
right.
And he's not the only one. So that kind of story repeats over and over and over again.
Have you been to the Ortona Cemetery? It's not too far from you.
No, what is it called?
Ortona. It's right near Lake Okeechobee, near Moorhaven.
Okay. No, I haven't. I mean, I've been to Okeechobee because of the ghost lights there. But I have not been to the cemetery that you're talking about.
You have to check it out because there's just a really cool, interesting fact about it. Now, the thing is, for us, that cemetery, what's well known is that we see a lot of shadow figures, a lot of movements. Last time there, I saw like an orb manifest and disappear with my own eyes. And it's in the middle of nowhere. But
Moorhaven is in the middle of nowhere.
Right? So there's these Native American burial mounds. They're called the Ortona Mounds, and they date back 250 BC. There's a serpent mound and a couple other mounds, and also there was a half moon mound. And the half moon mound used to be where now the cemetery is. So they built the cemetery over these ancient grounds, and they, back in the early 1900s, they dug up the shell mitten from the half moon mound, and they used it to build roads. And we believe that this is why we're seeing these shadow figures, because
right,
you got like our cemetery there over theirs, and I don't know. I think that's a perfect chemistry to stir shit up.
The same thing happens at Fort King, which is in Ocala. And you have, pre-Seminoles were there. And they then built this when the Seminole Wars were going on. It was kind of like, it was a base to reinforce, like a Seminole could go to this place, to the building across the street and complain about something, right? And then it kind of became, of the Indian Removal Act, it became like ground zero for that. Well, when the second Seminole War broke out, they started burying people in that same area that had been pre-Seminole Native American ground, right? So now you're mixing these American graves, like you're saying, with the tribe that was there before the Seminoles, right? Mm-hmm. At the end of the war, they end up digging up all of those graves and moving them out to St. Augustine to create the first national cemetery. So not only do you now have Fort King having these people wandering around the front lawn looking totally confused, not able to find themselves, people thinking they're reenactors, but then you also have the national cemetery kind of getting the tail end of that as well.
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, I'm thinking the movie Poltergeist, and then you got Weston that's built all over Native American. They got Peace Mound there, and they got a mound there where it's really weird because one of my friends lives in this community in Weston, and he says there's a mound there, and there's this big open spot of land where they didn't build, and I think it's because to pay the respects for that. Because in Weston or in South Florida, if there's any space, they're going to build over it. So I mean, they could build like $1 million home and make some money on it, but no, they left that one space open.
Yeah,
it's really weird. And we went there and we got some interesting things. I forgot what we got, but we did get some things that we couldn't explain through our equipment.
Yeah, probably my favorite of all of those to visit is Safety Harbor, right? And so Safety Harbor has the Temple Mound, which is about a third of what it was. And the story went that this was the highest point in Florida in that area. So Safety Harbor is right outside Tampa, right?
Right.
And so people, the shaman would go up to the top of the Temple Mound, and it was prime location. He could see everything that was going on. So any attackers or anything like that, they had advance warning, but he could also see the storms. And the story goes that he would, if he was seeing these storms coming, he would raise the water spirits, and the water spirits would fight the wind spirits. And that's why hurricanes never hit Safety Harbor. And part of the story goes is that the last shaman died before he could pass on all of these rituals to the next generation. So his ghost comes back to do it. So his ghost climbs up that mountain on almost a night, the mound, which is only a third now, every single night. And then people see this dark figure, not a shadow person, but just a dark figure going up the mountain. But there's another element to it, which is there's this French guy named Odette Philippe who essentially, I'm giving you the short version of the story, has made his money off the slave trade out of Key West, right? So he goes there when the whole
Island of the Bones,
right? When the Armed Occupation Act goes into place, right? He gets that whole area for like $12, right? And so he plows everything over. So the way the Toboga had it was like this was the center, and then they had a string of burial mounds and then a string of houses. So he plowed through everything, right? So he had heard the legend of the shaman, and he's like, well, whatever an Indian can do, a Frenchman can do better, right? I'm going to insult Native Americans and French people in this story, right? And so he climbs up the mountain. He almost does this like mockery of the ceremony, raising the water spirit to fight the wind spirit, right? Mm-hmm. All the homesteads in the area get destroyed. His in Safety Harbor is not even touched. Right?
Oh, wow.
However, when he dies, people say because he had that spirit might actually be him, and he's the one who walks up the mountains. And there was only once in the 1990s that Safety Harbor was hit by a storm, by a hurricane, and it was like a flash hurricane kind of thing, like it's even unnamed. Mm-hmm. And the one thing that it really truly destroyed was Odette Philippe's grave. And so now no one knows where his body actually is. Like, kind of like Cyrus tweet is like, take it all.
Exactly. Right.
His body was, his crypt was destroyed. His body was flown away. But like 2 or 3 days before Ian hit, I was in Palm Harbor, and I'm like, you know what? Maybe it's cheesy, but I'm going to go to Safety Harbor and just ask for safety. And pretty much like everyone around me was destroyed in Ian, and I suffered like almost no damage. So I'm like, I don't care whether it was Odette Philippe or whether it was the shaman. It is kind of like good luck charm. So now every time there's a big storm, I'm like, I'm going up to Safety Harbor and do it a little.
Hey, why not? Right?
Do it a little intense though.
Well, we're towards the end of the show, and man, we could talk for like 5 hours. Definitely have to bring you back on. But
anytime.
I know you have like books out, and you have your own podcast. Tell people about you and where they can find you.
Sure.
The upcoming
things coming up. The show's called Tripping on Legends. You can go to trippingonlegends.com. And you can, like, on any of the social media, you can either, search my name or search, Tripping on Legends, Facebook.com/Tripping on Legends. If you're in the Fort Myers area, truetours.net, or just get in contact with me. So my social media, if you want to tour, it's like a really great time. Like my most recent books, Haunted Southwest Florida, Haunted Florida Love Stories. And then I'm not saying I wrote Haunted Southwest Florida just so I could write the kids version, but I was able to write one for readers of like between 8 and 12 years old. Or, the freshmen that I teach are also in that demographic. But it's like all of these stories, true haunted legends throughout the state of Florida, but told like scary things to tell in the dark. So I have one for that, for Southwest Florida and for the Ocala National Forest.
Oh, bless you.
Just talking about this stuff, so like, I mean, if you're into that stuff, it's part of the haunted series. So if you're into that kind of thing, just go to your local CVS and you'll probably find one of my books.
Awesome. Check it out.
Or get in contact with me, whatever.
Awesome. And then also check out the Haunted Files. We're streaming on ParaFlixx, and our show, the Haunted Files Unplugged radio show, live every Monday night at 9. Don't forget to subscribe and like. And also our paranormal team, a new team that we have together called Ghost Hunters of South Florida. We got a whole bunch of events coming up, so stay tuned for dates. I don't have them yet, but we got like 10 events coming up at the Deering Estate. We're going to be at Gold Coast Railroad Museum, Old Davie Schoolhouse. So be on the lookout for that. They're interactive events where you get to be the investigator along with us. And thank you, Christopher, for coming on.
Thank you very much for having me.
And everyone have a good night. Peace.